So you might like to just to tell me what you remember about the history of the church, Muriel.
It was a vision and everybody sort of had to work for it. Land was given to the Methodist Church by people called Tuckett. There was an Evie Tuckett. So that was the land up there on top of the hill where we are now.
Right.
We had this man that came from England, and his name was Herbert Lucas, and you'll find the plaque there as you come out of the kitchen, and he built the church. So we all got in and did paint weatherboards and do this and do that and raise money and so forth, and so that was how it all came about. There is photos I will show you, concerts that we used to put on. So that was all done because of children didn't do the things that they do today.
Yes. The church was the social life then.
That's
wasn't
right. It was our social life, yeah. Big dinners and fetes and you name it, and it was done.
Right.
Now, we did have a big Queen competition here to raise monies to build the church in those days.
And that's on Orange Grove Road?
That's Orange Grove Road, yes. And this is Herbert Carter, and that's Jim Killen, the member for Moreton there, and that's the Queen that he's crowning, and her name was Zilla Dale. Do you know why the name of St David's was chosen? Well, it was just, we just came from up there, the Presbyterians, and that was St David's, and they felt that apparently the powers that be decided that that was to be St David's.
Oh, right. So that was the original name for the Presbyterian church in the area.
Yeah, and Reverend Lowry was the minister up there, and Basil Davey was the minister at Maruka. Ian Russell, the three ministers, and they were the three ministers that negotiated the Uniting Church here before anyone else started to do anything about it. And of course the other people that were behind it, of course, was Jack Snars, Maisie and Harold Henderson, the Ganters, Ruth Grimmett.
And who was the actual minister when you came to the new site up here?
Decided that it was to be Ian Russell for the Uniting Church. Now, Ian Russell was with us for 15 years. He was a very quiet, unassuming type of minister, you know. He would do anything for you if he possibly could. His wife, she was into pottery, and they had two sons. And when we did come together and we had Sunday school, and Bruce was superintendent with a man called Arthur Nettleton, and our Sunday school was so big that we had to have Sunday school up there at St David's, the Presbyterians, at our home at number 109, where the library is today, over at the school, and in the church. We started that thrift shop in the early days with Florence Scanter, Audrey Drysdale, Ruth Grimmett, but it really started in the hall, on the stage with those ladies. It'd be in the late 70s, I should imagine.
70s.
We didn't have that shed then until Jan Chalmers came with Karen, and they put the shed up there, and then we moved from that garage into the shed.
Oh,
And our first takings in that garage was $12 for the week. So the thrift shop just flourished.
took off.
Yeah, yeah. So we had a lot of wonderful people in the thrift shop.
Over a long time, and you were there for a long time.
Yeah, 30 years plus.
What do you remember about when we became the Uniting Church?
I remember voting. Reverend Davey was the minister at Maruka at that stage, and we got a vote, yes or no.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, the areas around Coopers Plains had basically united before the official
Yes.
decree came in a few years later, so I think you were ahead of the time.
March 1975, St David's Coopers Plains Uniting Church was formed by the amalgamation of the Maruka, Salisbury, Coopers Plains Congregational Churches, the Coopers Plains Methodist Church and Salisbury Presbyterian Church.
So did anything change very much when it became the one church, do you think?
So I felt that it was quite a huge church then. The church was packed
No, it was, yeah.
all the time. Lots of young people. There's-
Well, it was a young area, you know,
children growing
lots
up.
of children.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the daycare centre in the hall, 79, 1980. They used to have a childcare centre there
Childcare centre.
because Mark went there for a few months when he was only a baby, but you never got past the front desk. When you went there, you had to take 6 nappies and a couple of bibs and that, and they just come back with whatever that was just put in for all of them, and you'd hand them over the back of the counter, and they'd go into daycare and you pick them up from there. Not like today where the parents go in and settle the children and everything else, but he went to the daycare centre that was in the hall.
When we had the soccer club, we had 12 teams we had, from under 6 right through to 2 senior teams, and it was handed over to us from the Salvation Army Soccer Club when their church folded down in Salisbury. And we had a lot of other denominations in those members, you know, from the Assemblies of God
Assemblies of God.
and other churches that decided they would come to us. And the 4 members, myself, David Pace, Bruce Pollock and Cliff Hobbs. And you know, that was a great success. We had Ken Barber as one of the managers. Quite a few people from the church, you know, kept everybody
Kept it
involved, and they won. We had some quite successful teams in amongst those, because Cliff's team was one.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
always successful.
Yeah.
So
I have heard that the soccer team was really a big draw card for St David's.
When I'd only been there a little while, I think, when David Pace asked if anybody would like to be Sunday school teachers. I volunteered, and I remember Judy Crane volunteered on the same day. I did it there for a couple of years, so that was that. And then we did have home groups at the time too. I was in a home group that Victor Booth ran at his house, so that was nice. We also were doing Kerygma. So we started doing Kerygma there with Jack Snars at the time. He was the chap running it.
What do you remember about the musicals that I believe they had at St David's?
The talent, they really surprised me. And I think the talent is still there, going by our musicians. And yes, they did have quite a few musicals. I volunteered for the door stewards. So I was doing that for quite a while, and at that time we handed out the Bibles, and so that way I got to get over some of my shyness and get to meet the people. And my theory is, if you're new and you want to get the knowing everybody, volunteer for something, because that's the only way you can get to know more people. And that's how I came to be grieving, mainly because of the way Ethel welcomed me and how Arthur Brownlee was so nice. And it was just really a lovely, friendly church. And I think people were surprised to have somebody they didn't really know right out the front greeting them to their church when I was new. But anyway, that's been a long time now. I've been doing that. We used to have early service. It started through the Sunday school teachers felt we were never there for a sermon. We had to leave halfway through. So Arthur Brownlee started some of us going early for just a 15-minute little lesson, more or less like a little baby sermon. But then everybody got to realise it was there, and it just started to explode and turned into our 8 o'clock service. And the 9:30 was kept the other way. And that's how that started, as 2 breaks of service. I think everybody's quite happy now to the 8:30, they're comfortable with the one service and all of us together. But that's how that started way back then.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Is there anything you remember about the thrift shop you'd like to
Oh,
share?
that's right. And I don't know, everybody probably knows I used to look after the books right up till now. When we first started, there was just one little corner in one of the tray tables that had books. That's all it was, just 30 or 40 books. When we moved over into the house, that exploded and we finished up with 1,000. So one year in desperation, I said, could we have a book fest? And that's how they started, to try and get rid of all these books, which we would line up on tables right around the perimeter of the fences and that. Well, it was a big job. But the thrift shop was only small, but since we got with the house and the garage, it just, everybody in the whole district then knew we were a thrift shop. They liked it because it was not messy. Somebody said to me the other day they love it because they can rummage and look for bargains and things. And everybody that's worked there has been really friendly, and people remember that, and they tell us when they come in that it's lovely to come to St David's. So yes, the thrift shop has been really great. So that's my thrift shop over the 22 years. So that's a fair.
Yeah.
Lucky I can remember anything.
That's a lot of volunteering, Avril. A lot of volunteering.
But it's been good, love. It really has. You've got to remember, we're not the ones, it's God himself who'll make sure we don't fold up if he doesn't want us to. So he'll look after us as long as we keep faithful to him. That's important.
That's so very true,
Yeah,
Avril.
yeah.